1 year had passed since the Galactic Council's dissolution. Captain Lee Hanna stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, the Commonwealth's capital, watching ships from dozens of species dock peacefully together. The contrast with the old Nexus Prime could not have been greater. "Captain," her communications officer approached. "We're receiving the final membership applications. The Rigel Confederation and the Capella Alliance both want to join." "Have they met the requirements?" Lee asked. "Yes, ma'am. Democratic governments, equal rights for all citizens, and commitment to peaceful cooperation." Lee nodded. The Commonwealth had grown to include over 100 species, but they never compromised on their principles. Every member had to prove they were ready for true equality. In the Commonwealth Assembly Hall, Minister Park Day was addressing representatives from across the galaxy. The chamber was designed very differently from the old council hall. Instead of a throne for the High Counselor looking down on everyone else, there was a circular arrangement where all delegates sat as equals. "My fellow beings," Park Day began, "today marks the first anniversary of our Commonwealth. In 1 year we have achieved what the Galactic Council failed to do in 2,000 years. The statistics were impressive. Galactic trade had recovered and was now stronger than ever. Scientific advancement had accelerated dramatically. Most importantly, wars between member species had ended completely. But our greatest achievement," Park Day continued, "is proving that cooperation works better than domination." Ambassador Kang Wu sat in the front row watching the proceedings with satisfaction. Beside him sat former High Counselor Vextar, now serving as the Commonwealth's advisor on interspecies relations. The transformation had been remarkable. "A year ago, I would never have believed this possible," Vextar whispered to Kang Wu. "That's because you were thinking like a ruler instead of a partner," Kang Wu replied quietly. The change in Vextar had been gradual but genuine. Working alongside species he had once dominated had taught him valuable lessons about respect and cooperation. Dr. Kim Yuna was presenting the latest research achievements to the Assembly. "By sharing knowledge freely among all members, we have made breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel that benefit everyone." She displayed holographic images of new technologies, medical treatments that worked across multiple species, clean energy systems that could power entire worlds, faster-than-light communication networks that connected the galaxy instantly. Under the old system, these discoveries would have been restricted to certain species. Now, any Commonwealth member can use them freely. The applause was enthusiastic. Representatives from worlds that had been technological backwaters under Council rule now had access to the most advanced science in the galaxy. But the Commonwealth's first real test came from an unexpected source. Warning alarms began sounding. Throughout New Harmony Station, "Captain Lee," the emergency broadcast crackled. "We have hostile forces approaching from the Galactic Rim, unknown vessels heavily armed." Lee rushed to the command center where Commander Chobin was coordinating the response. The main display showed a massive fleet of alien ships, unlike anything in Commonwealth databases. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "they're not responding to our communications. Their weapons are charging." "Fleet status?" Lee asked. "All Commonwealth defense forces are mobilizing." This was the moment of truth. The Commonwealth had never faced an external enemy. Would species that had once been enemies themselves fight together? The answer came quickly. Within hours, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled to defend Commonwealth space. Human vessels flew alongside former Council ships. Species that had fought each other for centuries now worked as one. Admiral Quinthara, now serving as Commonwealth Defense Coordinator, took command of the joint fleet. Her transformation from Council Enforcer to Commonwealth Protector had been complete. "All ships," she broadcast, "we fight not for conquest or domination, but to protect the freedom we have built together." The battle was fierce but brief. The unknown invaders had expected to find a divided galaxy, easy to conquer. Instead, they faced a united force fighting for shared values. When the enemy retreated, something remarkable happened. Instead of pursuing them for revenge, the Commonwealth fleet stopped at their own borders. "Sir," A young officer asked Commander Chobin. Shouldn't we follow them? Make sure they don't return? We are defenders, not conquerors, Chobin replied. We protect what we have built, but we don't impose our will on others. This restraint sent a message throughout the galaxy. The Commonwealth was strong enough to defend itself, but wise enough not to become what they had replaced. In the aftermath, species from beyond Commonwealth space began asking questions. How had this alliance become so strong? How had they achieved such unity? Dr. Kim Yuna found herself explaining Commonwealth principles to delegations from distant worlds. We don't rule anyone, she said. We work with everyone. We don't take from others. We share with each other. But how do you maintain order? Asked a representative from the outer spiral. Through cooperation, not force, Kim replied. When everyone benefits from the system, everyone wants to protect it. The concept was revolutionary to species that had lived under various forms of domination for millennia, but the Commonwealth's success was undeniable. Trademaster Bolgrim, now serving as Commonwealth Economic Coordinator, was amazed by the results of their approach. Under the Council, I spent most of my time managing disputes and enforcing restrictions. Now I help species find ways to work together for mutual benefit. The economic data supported his observations. Commonwealth members had the highest standard of living in galactic history. Poverty was virtually eliminated. Scientific advancement was accelerating. But perhaps the most important change was in how species related to each other. Ambassador Kang Wu observed this during a diplomatic gathering. A year ago, these species were suspicious of each other, competing for council favor. Now they're planning joint projects and sharing resources freely. Former High Counselor Vextar nodded. We spent 2,000 years trying to maintain order through fear and control. You've achieved real peace through respect and cooperation. The Commonwealth's success attracted attention from across the galaxy. A message arrived from a distant star cluster, transmitted by a species that had never made contact before. We have observed your Commonwealth from afar, the message began. We are impressed by your principles of equality and cooperation. Would you be willing to share your knowledge with others who seek similar goals? Captain Lee Hana smiled as she read the message. Send a response, she instructed. The Commonwealth stands ready to assist all who seek freedom and equality among the stars. But even as they celebrated their success, the Commonwealth leaders remained humble. Minister Park Day addressed this in his anniversary speech. We have not built perfection, he admitted. We still face challenges, we still make mistakes. But we have built something better than what came before. The old council tried to create order through domination. We have created harmony through cooperation. The old system was based on fear. Ours is based on hope. Most importantly, we have proven that different species can work together as equals. We have shown that strength comes not from ruling others, but from standing with them. As the anniversary celebration ended, beings from dozens of worlds returned to their homes carrying a message of hope. The galaxy had changed. The age of domination was over. The era of cooperation had begun. On Earth, children learned about the Commonwealth in their schools. They studied how their ancestors had stood up to injustice and built something better. They learned that true strength came from helping others, not controlling them. In the far reaches of space, species that had never heard of humans began to learn about Commonwealth principles. The idea that all intelligent beings deserved respect was spreading from world to world. Former Admiral Quinthara, now a respected Commonwealth leader, often reflected on the transformation. We thought the humans were weak because they offered cooperation instead of demanding submission. We were wrong. They were stronger than all of us because they understood something we didn't. Real power comes from bringing out the best in others. The Commonwealth continued to grow, but never through conquest. Each new member chose to join freely, attracted by the promise of equality and mutual benefit. As Captain Lee Hana looked out at the stars from New Harmony Station, she thought about the future. Somewhere out there, other species were struggling, under oppressive systems. Other civilizations were trapped by fear and hatred. But the Commonwealth had lit a beacon of hope. They had proven that a better way was possible. Sir, Her communications officer approached. "We're receiving another contact from beyond the galactic rim. A different species this time. They say they've heard about our Commonwealth and want to learn more." Lee smiled. The message was spreading. The galaxy was changing one species at a time. "Open a channel," she commanded. "The Commonwealth stands ready to help." As her words traveled across the vastness of space, they carried with them the promise that had started it all. That all beings, regardless of their origin, deserved dignity, respect, and the chance to reach for the stars as equals. The humans 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Council was facing complete collapse. High Counselor Vextar walked through the empty corridors of Nexus Prime, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The great station that once housed thousands of diplomats, traders, and officials now felt like a tomb. "Sir," his aide approached nervously, "we have the daily reports." Vexitar took the datapad, though he already knew what it would say. More species had withdrawn from the Council. More trade routes had collapsed. More star systems had declared independence. "How many members do we have left?" he asked. 17, sir. Down from 43 last week. 17. Out of over 200 species that had once belonged to the Council, only 17 remained. And most of those were probably planning their own exits. In the Council chamber, the few remaining delegates sat in a space designed for hundreds. Trademaster Bolgrim's crystal form flickered weakly. Admiral Quinthera's wings drooped with exhaustion. Even Mediator Zeflo seemed dimmer than usual. "We must face reality," Zeflo said quietly. "The Council is finished." "No." Vextar slammed his fist on the table. 2,000 years of civilization cannot end like this." "It already has ended," replied the delegate from Rigel. "My government has instructed me to withdraw from the Council effective immediately." Another one gone. Vextar watched the delegate gather his things and leave. Soon, he might be sitting alone in this vast chamber. Meanwhile, the Terran Commonwealth was thriving. In the space where humans had built their new capital station, representatives from 50 species worked together on equal terms. Minister Park Day stood before the Commonwealth Assembly, delivering his weekly report. "Trade between member worlds has increased by 200%. Our joint defense fleet now includes vessels from 30 different species. Most importantly, our research sharing program has led to breakthroughs that benefit everyone." The applause was genuine and enthusiastic. These species had found something they had never experienced under Council rule: true partnership. Ambassador Kang Wu approached Park Dai after the session. "Sir, we're receiving more requests for membership every day. The Andromeda Collective wants to join, so do the Outer Rim territories." "What about the remaining Council members?" Park Day asked. "Some are sending private messages. They want to know if they would be welcome in the Commonwealth." Park Day considered this. "Tell them the same thing we tell everyone. If they're willing to accept equality and cooperation, they're welcome. If they still think some species are better than others, they're not ready." The contrast between the two systems was becoming obvious to everyone. The Council demanded submission and offered little in return. The Commonwealth asked only for peaceful cooperation and shared its benefits freely. Dr. Kim Yuna was experiencing this difference firsthand. In her new research facility, she worked alongside scientists from dozens of species. The lack of Council restrictions had led to amazing discoveries. "We've developed a new medical treatment that works on 15 different species," she announced at a research meeting. "Under the old system, we would have been forced to share this with the Council first, and they would have controlled who received it. Now we can help anyone who needs it," added a scientist from the Arcturian Federation. "And we can continue our research without interference," said a researcher from the Polaris Collective. The Commonwealth's approach to science was revolutionary. Instead of hoarding knowledge for political advantage, they shared it freely among members. The result was rapid advancement that benefited everyone. Back on Nexus Prime, the situation was getting desperate. Admiral Quinthera stared at her command displays, watching red alerts flash across the galaxy. Pirate fleets were attacking defenseless worlds. Trade wars had broken out between former allies. Without the Council's military to maintain order, chaos was spreading. "Admiral," her officer reported, "the Vega system is under attack by raiders. They're requesting immediate assistance." "With what ships?" Quinthera asked bitterly. "We have 12 vessels left. 12. To protect an entire galaxy." "Perhaps we should contact the Commonwealth," the officer suggested carefully. Quinthera's mandibles clicked angrily. "Never. We will not beg humans for help." But even as she said it, she knew they might have no choice. The economic situation was even worse than the military one. Trademaster Bolgrim stood in his empty trading center, watching the last few merchants pack up their stalls. Galactic commerce had almost completely stopped. "Master," his assistant approached, "the remaining merchants are asking if they can join the Commonwealth trading network." They would abandon the Council? Bolgrim's crystal form flashed with indignation. "Master, the Commonwealth Trading Network handles 90% of galactic commerce now. If our merchants don't join, they'll have no customers left." The truth was painful, but undeniable. The Commonwealth had become the galaxy's new economic center. Their fair trading practices and lack of corruption had attracted merchants from across space. High Counselor Vextar received the worst news of all during his morning briefing. His aide's voice shook as he delivered the report. "Sir, 3 more founding species have announced their withdrawal. The Altair Confederation, the Sirius Alliance, and the Centauri Republic are all joining the Commonwealth." Vextar felt something break inside him. The founding species had created the Council 2,000 years ago. If they were leaving, nothing remained. "Sir," his aide continued, "there's more. The Tau Ceti government has announced they're no longer recognizing Council authority in their territory. The Wolf 359 colonies have done the same." "What about our own species?" Vextar asked quietly. The aide hesitated. "Sir, the home government has called for your immediate return. They want to discuss new options." Vextar understood. His own people were ready to abandon the Council. He would likely be removed from power and replaced with someone willing to negotiate with the humans. That evening, Vextar sat alone in his office, composing what might be his final message as High Counselor. His pride, his authority, everything he had worked for was crumbling around him. He activated his communication system and sent a message to Ambassador Kang Wu. "To the leadership of the Terran Commonwealth," he began, his voice heavy with defeat. "The Galactic Council now formally requests negotiations for peaceful transition of authority." He paused, knowing that his next words would end 2 millennia of Council rule. "We acknowledge that our system has failed. We acknowledge that we were wrong to treat humanity and other species as subordinates. We ask only that you consider mercy for those who serve the old system in good faith." He sent the message and waited. The reply came faster than expected. It was from Ambassador Kang Wu, but it was also broadcast to every world in the galaxy. "The Terran Commonwealth does not seek to replace the Council's tyranny with our own." Kang Wu's voice was calm and measured. "We offer membership to any species willing to embrace equality and cooperation. This includes former Council leadership, if they are truly committed to change. However," the message continued, "the age of species dominating other species is over. The Commonwealth stands for the principle that all intelligent beings deserve respect and self-determination. To those who cling to the old ways of thinking, we say this: evolve or be left behind. The galaxy is moving forward with or without you." The message ended with an offer that surprised everyone. "Former High Counselor Vextar, if you wish to serve galactic civilization in a new capacity, based on merit rather than birthright, the Commonwealth welcomes your application." On Nexus. Prime, Vextar stared at the communication display in shock. After everything he had done, after all the mistakes he had made, the humans were still offering him a chance at redemption. Around the galaxy, other former Council officials received similar messages. The Commonwealth was not seeking revenge. They were offering transformation. Admiral Quinthera received an invitation to help design the Commonwealth's defense strategies. Trademaster Bolgrim was offered a position in their economic planning committee. Even mediator Zephylos was asked to help establish the Commonwealth's justice system. The message was clear. The Commonwealth wanted to build something better, not just tear down the old system. But there was also a warning. Species that refused to change, that still believed in domination over cooperation, would find themselves isolated and alone. As the day ended, Vexitar made his decision. He would accept the Commonwealth's offer. It meant abandoning everything he had believed in for centuries, but perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The old order was truly dead. Now it was time to help build the new one. He composed his final message as High Counselor. The Galactic Council hereby dissolves all authority and transfers any remaining assets to the Terran Commonwealth for the benefit of all galactic civilization. He sent the message. Vexitar felt something he had not experienced in decades. Hope. Perhaps the humans had been right all along. Perhaps it was time for real change. 2 months had passed since the humans left. High Counselor Vexitar stared out the window of his office at the chaos below. Nexus Prime was falling apart. Half the shops were closed. The docking bays were nearly empty. Even the lights flickered because the power grid needed human maintenance. "We must take action," he declared to his advisors. "The humans cannot be allowed to destroy galactic civilization." Trademaster Bolgrim's crystal form pulsed with desperate energy. "I agree. We should blockade their territory. Force them to return." Admiral Quinthera clicked her mandibles nervously. "Sir, our fleet is stretched thin. We barely have enough ships to protect our own worlds. Then we make other species choose," Vexitar said firmly. "Any species that trades with humans will be expelled from the Council." It was a terrible mistake. Within days, the ultimatum backfired spectacularly. The Arcturian Federation, tired of Council restrictions, announced they were leaving to join a trade alliance with humans. The Polaris Collective followed. Then the Centauri Republic declared independence. "This is madness," Vexitar roared at an emergency council session. 3 founding members have abandoned us, but the damage was spreading. Smaller species saw their chance to escape council control. The Tau Ceti colonies withdrew. The Wolf 359 system declared neutrality. The Epsilon Eridani settlements simply stopped sending representatives. Meanwhile, in human space, Minister Park Day was hosting a very different kind of meeting. Leaders from the species that had left the council sat around a table, discussing the future. "We propose the Terran Commonwealth," Park Day announced. "A voluntary alliance based on mutual respect and equal representation." The Arcturian delegate leaned forward. "What would membership require?" "Nothing more than peaceful intentions and fair dealing," replied Ambassador Kang Wu. "No tribute, no technology-sharing mandates, no restrictions on internal development." "It sounds too good to be true," said the Polaris representative. Captain Lee Hanna smiled. "That's because you're used to the Council's way of doing things. We believe in partnership, not domination." The contrast was stark. While the Council demanded submission, humans offered cooperation. While the Council hoarded power, humans shared it freely. Back on Nexus Prime, the crisis was getting worse every day. Admiral Quinthera stood in her command center watching red warning lights flash across her displays. "Admiral," her communications officer buzzed urgently, "we have pirate attacks in 5 different sectors. The merchant guilds are demanding protection." "Which fleets are available?" she asked. "The 2nd Fleet is dealing with the rebellion in the Vega system. The 5th Fleet is trying to stop the Centauri from taking Council equipment. The 7th Fleet is... Just tell me how many ships we have ready for deployment." Her officer hesitated. 47 vessels, ma'am, for the entire galaxy." Before the human withdrawal, the Council had controlled over 800 ships. Now most were tied up in internal conflicts or had been lost to defecting species. The economic situation was even worse. Trademaster Bolgrim stared at reports showing galactic commerce down 70%. Entire industries were collapsing, without human technology and materials. "Master," his assistant reported, "the Rigel shipyards are closing. They can't get the rare metals they need." "What about the Sirius manufacturing complex?" Shut down last week. The workers went on strike when their pay was cut. The Altair Medical Centers? Operating at 20% capacity. They don't have the equipment or supplies. The galaxy was dying and everyone knew it. But the worst news came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kim Yuna, working in her human research facility, had made a shocking discovery. Minister Park, she called urgently, you need to see this. Park Day arrived at her laboratory within the hour. What have you found? I've been analyzing the data we collected during our 50 years in the council, she explained. Look at these patterns. She showed him holographic displays of technological development across different species. The patterns were clear and disturbing. The council has been deliberately holding back younger species, she continued. They give us flawed technology. They sabotage our research projects. They manipulate our trade agreements to keep us dependent. Park Day studied the evidence. How long has this been going on? Centuries, maybe longer. Every time a species gets close to matching the older ones, something happens. Accidents, economic problems, sometimes wars. We need to share this information, Park Day decided. The galaxy needs to know the truth. The revelation sent shockwaves through the former council species. Evidence of manipulation, sabotage, and deliberate suppression spread, like wildfire. Species that had been loyal to the council for centuries suddenly questioned everything. On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vextar faced the worst crisis of his career. Delegates were demanding answers. Some were calling for his removal from office. You knew about this, accused the representative from the Procyon system. You knew the council was cheating us. The council maintains order, Vextar replied weakly. Without us, there would be chaos. There already is chaos, shouted the delegate from the Capella colonies. Because of your failed policies. The session dissolved into violence. Delegates from different species began fighting. Security forces had to intervene to restore order. In the aftermath, mediator Zephylos approached Vextar privately. You must contact the humans. This has gone too far. I will not beg, Vextar said proudly. Then you will watch galactic civilization collapse, Zephylos replied. Is your pride worth more than billions of lives? Vextar looked around the empty council chamber. Once, it had been filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Now, only a few dozen remained. The rest had either left or been expelled. What would you have me do? He asked quietly. What you should have done months ago. Admit we were wrong. Ask for their help. That night, Vextar composed a message. It was perhaps the hardest thing he had ever written. His pride, his authority, his entire worldview was being set aside. To Ambassador Kang Wu and the human leadership, he began. The Galactic Council and requests humanity's return to negotiations. We are prepared to discuss adjusted terms. He sent the message and waited. The reply came within hours. It was broadcast not just to the Council, but to every species in the galaxy. Ambassador Kang Wu's voice was calm, but firm. Humanity does not negotiate with those who never respected us as equals. We offered partnership. You demanded subservience. The old order has ended. A new one begins. Those words echoed across space. On thousands of worlds, beings who had lived under Council rule for centuries heard a simple truth. Change was possible. The Galactic Council's reign was over. The question now was, what would replace it? In human space, the answer was already taking shape. The Terran Commonwealth was growing stronger every day. Former Council species were joining freely, bringing their knowledge and resources. Commander Chobin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as human and alien ships worked together to build a new space station. It would serve as a headquarters for the Commonwealth, but unlike Nexus Prime, it would be open to all member species. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving requests from 12 more species. They want to join the Commonwealth. Chobin smiled. Schedule meetings with all of them, but make sure they understand our terms, equality, cooperation, and mutual respect. And if they refuse those terms, then they're not ready to join us yet. The old galaxy was dying, but from its ashes, something better was being born. High Counselor Vextar sat alone in his office, watching the last ships leave Nexus Prime. Soon the great station would be empty except for a skeleton crew. The Galactic Council, ruler of the galaxy for 2 millennia, was finished. He had one last message to send. To all former council members, he transmitted, the Galactic Council hereby dissolves. May you find in the future what we failed to provide in the past. As his words spread across the galaxy, millions of beings looked up at the stars and wondered what would come next. For the first time in centuries, the future was unwritten, and in human space, that future was already beginning. 3 days had passed since the humans left Nexus Prime. High Counselor Vextar sat in his private chamber, staring at reports that filled his desk. Each one brought worse news than the last. Sir, his assistant approached carefully. The trade reports are ready. Vextar picked up the first document. His yellow eyes widened as he read. 35% of all galactic trade had stopped. Human shipping companies had pulled their vessels from every major trade route. Cargo was piling up at space stations across the galaxy. This cannot be right, he muttered. His assistant nodded nervously. I checked 3 times, sir. The humans controlled more trade than we realized. On the other side of the galaxy, Trademaster Bulgrim was having his own crisis. The crystalline being stood in his office watching holographic displays show red warnings everywhere. Master, one of his workers said, the Terran mineral exchange is closed. No more rare Earth shipments from human asteroid mines. Bulgrim's crystal body flickered with worry. How much of our industrial capacity depends on those materials? 40%, Master. Maybe more. The truth was becoming clear across Council space. For 50 years, humans had quietly become essential to galactic civilization. They had built the shipping networks. They had provided the raw materials. They had maintained the technology that kept everything running. Admiral Quinthara faced the worst problems of all. In her command center, alarms were blaring constantly. Her forearms moved quickly across multiple control panels, trying to manage crisis after crisis. Admiral! Her communications officer buzzed urgently. Pirate attack in Sector 5. The merchant convoy is requesting immediate assistance. Send the 4th Fleet, Quinthara ordered. Ma'am, the 4th Fleet was stationed at the human base. In Sector 7, they left with the humans. Quinthara's mandibles clicked in frustration. Then send the 9th Fleet. The 9th Fleet is already responding to attacks in Sectors 2 and 11. We don't have enough ships. The reality hit her, like a shockwave. Human vessels had been patrolling half the galaxy's shipping lanes. Human bases had provided support for Council military operations. Human technology had maintained the communication networks that coordinated everything. How many ships did we lose when the humans left? She asked quietly. Her officer checked his display. Directly? About 300 vessels. But sir, that's not the real problem. What do you mean? The humans provided maintenance for our advanced weapon systems. They operated our long-range communication relays. They supplied our bases with everything from food to fuel. Without them, Quinthara understood. The Council military had not just lost ships. They had lost their ability to function as a coordinated force. Meanwhile, in human space, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Minister Park Day sat at a conference table with military and civilian leaders from across human colonies. The border closures are complete, reported Captain Lee. Hana, all non-human ships have been turned away from our territory. What about essential supplies? Asked Dr. Kim Yuna. We're completely self-sufficient, Park Day replied. That was part of our preparation for this moment. We can feed ourselves, fuel ourselves, and defend ourselves without any outside help. Commander Cho Bin leaned forward. What about the aliens? How are they handling our departure? Captain Lee smiled grimly. Not well. Our intelligence shows chaos spreading through Council space. Trade has collapsed. Their military is scrambling to cover gaps we left behind. Good, Park Day said firmly. Maybe now they'll understand what we were really worth. Back on Nexus Prime, the Council was trying to hold an emergency session. But even this simple task was proving difficult. Where is the Vegan delegation? Vextar demanded. Their ship broke down, sir, an aide reported. The maintenance facility they usually use was run by humans. What about the Centauri representatives? Still in transit, sir. The shipping lane they normally use is closed. Pirates have been attacking civilian vessels there. Vextar slammed his fist on the table. How did we become so dependent on these humans? Mediator Zephylos, the energy being, flickered thoughtfully. Perhaps because they were more competent than we admitted. While we saw them as servants, they were actually holding our civilization together. Nonsense. Trademaster Bolgrim's crystal form flashed angrily. They were just one species among many. We can replace them. With whom? Zephylos asked. The Andromedans? They lack the technology. The Orion Collective? They're too busy fighting each other. The Centauri? They've been in decline for centuries. The truth was uncomfortable but undeniable. Humans had not just been members of the Council. They had been its backbone. On Earth, Ambassador Kang Wu was reading similar reports, but from a very different perspective. Human intelligence networks were still functioning perfectly. They could see everything happening in Council space. The Galactic Stock Exchange has lost 60% of its value, he reported to Minister Park Day. 3 major shipping companies have declared bankruptcy. The Council's emergency response system is completely overwhelmed. Any word from individual species? Park Day asked. Several are sending private messages. The Arcturians want to establish direct trade relations. The Polaris Federation is asking for defense agreements. Even some of the younger council members are inquiring about separate negotiations. Park Day nodded. Let them wait. We're not ready to talk yet. Sir, Dr. Kim Yuna spoke up. I've been analyzing the technological situation. Without our research, sharing agreements, many species will fall behind quickly. Some of their systems will start failing within months. Their problem, Park Day replied coldly. They had 50 years to treat us as equals. They chose not to. The consequences were spreading faster than anyone had expected. On the mining world of Kepler 186F, alien workers were rioting because their human supervisors had left and no one knew how to operate the equipment. In the Tau Ceti system, a space station was slowly losing power because the humans who maintained its fusion reactors were gone. On the trade hub of Proxima Station, thousands of alien merchants were stranded because human shipping companies had canceled all their contracts. But perhaps the most telling sign of the crisis was happening in the council chamber itself. For the first time in decades, delegates were arguing openly about the leadership's decisions. "This is your fault," shouted the representative from the Epsilon Eridani colonies. "You pushed the humans too far." "We did nothing wrong," Vextar replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "Nothing wrong?" The delegate from the Vega system stood up angrily. "My people are facing food shortages because human agricultural shipments have stopped. My government is ready to withdraw from this council if this crisis continues." Other delegates began voicing similar complaints. Some threatened to follow humanity's example and leave the council entirely. Admiral Quinthera tried to maintain order. "We must remain calm. The humans will return. They need galactic trade as much as we do." "Do they?" asked the representative from Wolf 359. "Our intelligence suggests they're doing just fine without us. Their colonies are well supplied. Their defenses are strong. Their people seem quite happy to be independent." The session devolved into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some walked out in protest. Others demanded immediate action to force the humans to return. High Counselor Vextar finally called for a recess, but the damage was done. The Council's authority, built over 2 millennia, was cracking. In human space, the mood was very different. Commander Cho Bin stood on the bridge of the battleship Terra Nova, watching his fleet conduct exercises. Without Council restrictions, human military technology was advancing rapidly. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the new defensive grid is online. Any hostile force entering our territory will be detected immediately." "Excellent," Chobin replied. "What about our manufacturing capacity?" "Up 30% since we stopped sharing our production with the Council. The shipyards are working at full capacity. Chobin smiled. For the first time in decades, human resources were being used for human benefit. On the research station Prometheus, Dr. Kim Yuna was having similar success. Without the Council's restrictions on genetic research, we've made 3 major breakthroughs. This week, she reported to her team, the agricultural improvements alone will increase crop yields by 20%, added her assistant. And the medical advances could extend human lifespan by decades, another researcher noted. The message was becoming clear throughout human space. Independence was not just politically satisfying, it was practically beneficial. As the first week of the crisis ended, both sides were learning important lessons. The Council was discovering how much they had depended on human contributions. The humans were discovering how much the Council had been holding them back. But the real consequences were yet to come. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was silent. Ambassador Kang Wu stood at the human-speaking platform, his dark eyes scanning the hundreds of alien faces before him. The massive space station had been home to the Galactic Council for over 2,000 years. Today it would witness something that had never happened before. High Counselor Vextar sat on his golden throne, his reptilian features twisted in annoyance. The tall, green-scaled alien had ruled the Council for 3 decades. He did not like being challenged, especially by humans. The vote is clear, Vextar announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. The mining rights in Sector 7 go to the Crystalline Collective. The motion passes by a vote of 47-3. Kang Wu felt his jaw tighten. Sector 7 was in human space. Human colonies had lived there for 20 years. Human ships protected those worlds. Human workers had built everything there. Yet the Council had just given away their mining rights to aliens who had never even visited the sector. This is wrong, Kang Wu said, stepping forward. Those are human worlds. Our people live there. Our families are there. Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed. The Council has spoken, Ambassador. Your species has been members for only 50 years. You do not understand how things work here. Murmurs filled the hall. Other alien delegates whispered among themselves. Some looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. They had learned long ago not to challenge the Council's inner circle. Trademaster, Bulgrim, a being made of living crystal, sparkled as he laughed. Perhaps the humans need more time to learn their place. Junior species must be patient. Kang Wu's hands clenched into fists. For 50 years, humans had tried to work within this system. They had followed every rule. They had paid every tax. They had sent their best people to serve on committees that meant nothing. They had shared their technology freely while other species hoarded theirs. Patient? Kang Wu's voice rose. We have been patient for 50 years. We provide 60% of the defense for that sector. We supply 40% of its trade. Our technology keeps the shipping lanes safe. Yet our vote counts for almost nothing. Admiral Quinthera, an insect-like being with 4 arms, clicked her mandibles. Defense is the duty of junior species. It is how you earn your place. Earn our place? Kang Wu laughed bitterly. We have earned it 100 times over, but you will never give it to us, will you? The hall grew quiet. Even the translator devices seemed to pause. Vextar leaned forward on his throne. Careful, human. You forget yourself. Kang Wu looked around the chamber. He saw the faces of beings from dozens of worlds. Some had been here for centuries, others for millennia. All of them were trapped in the same system. The old species ruled. The young species served. Nothing ever changed. He thought of Captain Lee Hana waiting on her ship in orbit. She had warned him this would happen. The military officers had no patience left for diplomacy. They wanted action. He thought of Minister Park Day back on Earth. The politician had given him one last chance to make this work. If this failed, humanity would have to choose a different path. He thought of Dr. Kim Yuna and her research team. They had made breakthrough after breakthrough, only to be forced to share everything with species that gave nothing in return. I do not forget myself, Kang Wu said quietly. I remember exactly who I am. I am a human being. I represent a species that has never bowed to tyrants. Vexitar's scales changed color, turning darker. You dare call this council tyrannical? Call it what it is, Kang Wu replied. A system designed to keep the powerful in power and the rest of us in chains. The alien delegates began talking all at once. Some sounded angry, others seemed shocked, a few appeared frightened. Mediator Zephylos, a being of pure energy, tried to restore order. Perhaps we should take a recess. Emotions are running high. No, Kang Wu said firmly. No more delays, no more committees, no more excuses. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sealed document. I have a message from the United Earth government. Vextar sat back in his throne. Speak your message, human. Kang Wu broke the seal and unfolded the paper. His voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustics. To the Galactic Council, for 50 years humanity has sought partnership in this body. We came offering friendship, trade, and cooperation. We hoped to find equals among the stars. Instead, we found masters who demand servants. The hall erupted in noise. Several alien delegates stood up shouting protests. Vextar slammed his ceremonial gavel repeatedly. Kang Wu continued reading, his voice never wavering. We have contributed more to galactic peace and prosperity than many species who have been here for centuries, yet we are treated as children who must prove themselves worthy of respect. This is outrageous. Trademaster Bulgrim's crystalline form flashed with angry light. How dare they? Today's vote proves that nothing will ever change, Kang Wu read on. We will always be junior partners, no matter what we accomplish. We will always serve the interests of others before our own. Admiral Quinthera's wings buzzed with agitation. Stop this nonsense at once. But Kang Wu kept reading. Therefore, effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all Galactic Council proceedings. We will recall our diplomats, our traders, our scientists, and our military personnel from all Council operations. The chamber fell deadly silent. Even the background hum of the station system seemed louder than the breathing of 800 alien beings. Furthermore, Kang Wu continued, all human colonies will close their borders to non-human ships. All trade agreements with Council species are hereby terminated. All joint military operations will cease within 72 hours. Vextar stood up slowly, his full height impressive even by galactic standards. You cannot be serious. Kang Wu folded the document and put it away. He looked directly at the High Counselor. We came to this council seeking partnership. We found only condescension and exploitation. Humanity withdraws from all council proceedings, effective immediately. He turned and began walking toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the silent hall. You'll be back, Vextar called after him. You need us more than we need you. Kang Wu paused at the doorway. He looked back one final time at the assembled delegates. No, he said simply. We don't. As the doors closed behind him, chaos erupted in the council chamber. Aliens shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate action. Others called for calm. A few began discussing what this would mean for their own species. High Counselor Vextar remained standing, his reptilian face showing emotions that few had ever seen. For the first time in his long reign, he looked uncertain. Outside in the corridor, Kang Wu activated his communicator. Captain Lee, this is Ambassador Kang. Execute Protocol 7, we're going home. Captain Lee Hana's voice crackled through the device. Understood, Ambassador. All human personnel will be evacuated within the hour. The fleet is standing by. As Kang Wu walked through the station's corridors, he passed human diplomats, scientists, and military officers. Word was already spreading. They looked at him with expressions ranging from shock to admiration to relief. Is it really over? Asked Dr. Kim Yuna, stepping out of a research lab. The old way is over, Kang Wu replied. Now we find a new way. Within 6 hours, every human had left Nexus Prime. The speed and efficiency of their departure sent a clear message to anyone watching. This was not an emotional outburst. This was a carefully planned operation. As the last human transport ship jumped to hyperspace, the Galactic Council was left to face a question they had never considered before. What happens when the servants decide to leave?